Welcome back to the Pocket Parlor, guys. Mike Sullivan once again. Today we're going to do an extended sidewall goalie stick. So first step is to get your mesh. I like to do extended sidewall with your regular style hard goalie mesh, the smaller diamonds. They tend not to stretch as nice to the sidewall, so this gives you a nice little cushion, a way to create a good channel. So the first step, like any head, is going to be the top string. I fold it over to the 16 diamond row. So there's one row of 17, one row of 16. I like to always do it on the smallest row, pull the top string extra tight. So the first step of that is just like a regular top string. I'm going to skip this big hole in the Warrior Nemesis up top and pull it down to the first regular sized hole. So I'm just going to go through the sidewall hole, up through the mesh. Make sure you cut an extra long piece for a goalie top string. Right through that same hole. Pull it tight. Up through the first diamond. And unlike how I've been teaching you before with one diamond to every hole, on this goalie you're going to go 2 diamonds of mesh to every top string hole. So what you're going to do is just start out, you're going to go down through the mesh, or down through the top string hole, up through that second diamond in the mesh. And now when I go back down through the diamond, I'm going through that next diamond. And so I'm linking 2 mesh pieces to 1 top string hole. So down through the mesh, up through the plastic, pulling it down nice and tight. So there's a look at how it's going to connect. And I just keep going through the rest of the holes. Nice and tight. So there's 7 top string holes with 2 diamonds per hole. That's 14 diamonds. And then 1 diamond on each on the side gives you the 16. That's an easy way to make sure you're doing it nice and tight and even. You never want to have an extra hole left over on the end. You want to make sure everything's connected somewhere. I'm going to finish it just like I started it, down through the last diamond, out through that first small sidewall hole, just looping it right around itself. Pulling it out, getting it nice and tight, and just tying a knot on the end to secure it. The next step for this is going to be to run a thick sidewall down the outside of the mesh to act as like a support. It helps create a slightly tighter, more defined channel. It also prevents you from blowing out a piece of mesh faster. So I like to go down through my diamonds. I go through each one, just down through the entire way, each consecutive piece. I usually like to leave about 4 or 5 diamonds left on the bottom when I finish, but I never cut my string just in case I need to go back and add or subtract some diamonds. I tie it out through the outside bottom hole, which kind of helps support the mesh, kind of gives you a start to your pocket. Now I'll just throw it in on the other side. So the next step, right out through that outside bottom hole. So now I've got 2. Now I need to run a floating sidewall down it. So what that's going to consist of is that third hole down on the sidewall. Pull through. I'm not attaching any mesh to this. This is just a base for another string. So I'm going to hit every sidewall hole until I get to the grouping of 3, or I'll just skip this middle one just to keep everything evenly spaced. Then right out through the bottom sidewall hole. Just going to mimic the same thing on the other side. Now here's the important part. This is our sidewall connector. This is going to connect your sidewall string to that runner piece and the mesh. So I'm going to go through the same hole I went through on the sidewall string, pulling that tight. I'm going to connect to the second piece of mesh down. I'm going to go down through the mesh and then up and around it, pulling it tight. My next connection is going to come under the first knot I made on the sidewall. What that does, I loop around and that string can't pull up any further, so that'll allow the pocket to be pulled down nice and tight. For the first couple holes on here, I'm just going to skip with every other mesh hole. So I'm going to skip one here, connect here, down to my next mesh piece or sidewall piece, skip another mesh hole, down to this one, skip another mesh hole and down to here. Now here comes a point where I'm actually going to skip 2 mesh pieces in between to help create a slightly bigger pocket in the middle of the head. So I'm going to skip 1, 2, connect down to that third one. I'm going to do that one more time. So I'm going to go into the sidewall string, skip 1, 2, down through here. To the sidewall. Now I'm back to just skipping 1 diamond, looping it around, and I'm going out where I finished my sidewall string. So here's one half. Now I'm just going to zoom through the second half, match everything up. Punch out your pocket, make sure everything's even. You got a nice deep, slightly channeled, low whip pocket. So what the benefit of this is, these outside runners act as almost a shock absorber, helping you limit your rebounds a little bit more, and then having these tight runners helps pull the channel in a little bit tighter than you could if you pulled the mesh right to the outside of the head. So that's the basics of an extended sidewall stick. Join me next time in the next Pocket Parlor. I'm going to talk about 12 diamond mesh. Thanks.